This episode of This Week in Web Series is brought to you by SpidVid.com. Connect, collaborate, and create video entertainment. Today's special guest on This Week in Web Series is Tom Konkle from Safety Geeks.
So don't get parts on the floor.
Okay, we are back, and we have Chris Greenaway from Venus Spa. Welcome to the show.
Emperor Chris.
Nice.
I feel a great disturbance in the Schwartz.
Right on. Okay. So, we have, of course, Tom Konkle from Safety Geeks here, and myself, Travis
I
Gordon.
don't have the intimidating floating head of Chris Greenaway, but I respect the effect. I like the effect.
Yes, I've head envy. I don't. That sounds dirty. Okay.
Yikes! It's
Yeah.
in 3D now.
Excellent, excellent. I miss your Charlie Sheen winning poster behind you.
That's right.
Well, when the lights came out,
You gotta
Charlie
change-
looking for Sasha Grey again.
Okay. And yeah, so I'm Travis Gordon from Spell Fury, and we've got some heavy hitters here tonight. I bet you our views on YouTube all combined are a lot.
We're getting there.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
We have a good, respectable amount on YouTube, and one thing that we've done is tried to cast a pretty wide net. On some of the shows like Safety Geeks, we rolled it out first on Coalcast. They had a deal where we would show it there first in HD, and then we're on Metacafe and Blip and Daily Motion and all those. So as aggregate views, we're about 9 million, 10 million views for Geeks and Invention combined, which is respectable over 2.5 years.
That's pretty good.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you still working hard on Metacafe?
You know what? I visited it 2 days ago.
Oh,
to
wow.
See what happened. Yeah, it was sort of an archaeological dig, and I went in and found it, and there was a couple that they used to do a sort of director's spotlight or a thing like that. There were a couple that apparently were picked last year and did quite well, and I had no knowledge of that. So it's a shame. You know, Metacafe, I really like the platform, but I do think it's fallen into some disrepair, and I hope they are able to keep it going in some form.
I don't think I've been on there in 2 years since they left.
Yeah.
They dropped the producer program.
Yes, that's what I used to be on, and they sent me some kind of credit card that I could use to buy things instead of paying me.
Ooh.
They sent me a Metacafe Visa card. I'm not kidding. I'm like, so I get to charge interest on my purchase. So, yes, it's somewhat less important in the scheme of the release to be on there. But yeah, we tried to cast a wide net. And the fun part is when you find out some site in Russia has it and someone mails it to you, like, hey, you need to check this out. And you're like, that's my show.
Yeah.
It's gone all the way around the world.
I have a question. Since you guys are both on Coalcast, my Venus Spa was rejected 3 times, and my question to you is in regards to view tracking. Now, YouTube has a very excellent insight numbers system where you can crunch all the numbers, demographics, locations, like where links were clicked, etc. What kind of system do they have for that with Coalcast? Because I hear people mention numbers, but they're not visible to anyone to the average person.
If I may, Travis, I'll take it, and then you want to jump in.
Sure.
I had a similar impression at the beginning when we came on board. David Samuels and his team, they were kind enough to do sort of a negative pickup of Geeks, but there was no transparency as far as views, and we didn't know how we were doing. And the frustration initially was, if we do a blast out, well, we don't know if it worked. We don't know if we got more views, because even we couldn't see what it was doing. And I would say about a year to a year and a half ago, they finally came up with a discrete user interface where we log in under our name, and I can now literally see like where the views came from, if it was off-site or if it was embedded or whatever, and now I can really track and see what we are. But we were flying blind for about a year, and they still don't show the numbers for whatever reason, and I really don't know why. They don't show the numbers outside the system, and I don't have any insight on that. I agree. It's a different way of doing it, and it's playing the cards close, and that might be a business style for them. That you know, there's some sort of plan there.
Well, Blip does that as well, right?
Yeah, to a certain extent, they have a very variable. You can go in and really. I have a pro account with Blip, and you can really see exactly where the spikes are and generate graphs and reports and stuff.
But you can't see the viewer can't see actually how many views are on a video on Blip as well.
I guess they can't. I've only logged in as a user and then watched, so I will have to go to a Blip site without logging in. And I guess you guys are right. Does it not have the count?
No, you can see it if you're a user. Okay. But I guess it's a business strategy. Like TV, when you put on Glee, you don't know how many people are watching.
Exactly. I think for them it might make sense. It's a good question, Chris. It might make sense to not have it be as transparent if you're in a nascent stage and they're trying to get more advertising and you want to see what's popular, but you want to know what's popular relative to shows. So popular for them might be 4,000 views. And you don't want to go in against a YouTube where you're looking at millions and it's just not scalable to what Blip is trying to do. I don't know.
And again too, it's blip.tv and coldcast.tv, right? It's there. I think they're trying more television strategy. Yeah, and it is. It's
playing it closer to the vest, and it's certainly YouTube is a search engine. Let's face it. And it's certainly a different way of presenting the videos in a much more. There's a lot more coal that you have to sift through to get to the diamonds in that. And with Coldcast, they tend to, for right or wrong, mediate what shows they put on it, and they're treating it like their own little HBO. And
okay,
Blip is also that way.
I want to ask you a question. You mentioned there's a lot of people on YouTube. How would you define that? In terms of because one thing I learned about YouTube is a lot of it's every man for himself, and if you can put a team together, it works. But honestly, I don't know if it's fair to say that you just got with that when it comes to YouTube. I mean, there's some things that I think are a mess on YouTube, but generally, it's better that than have things that may not necessarily be anything but overrated by the company that's pushing it, shoving it down your throat. I saw that with Blip for a while, is that a lot of shows that I wasn't into. I went looking for other stuff after I saw all the featured videos. Same is true on YouTube. I'm saying one isn't any better or worse than the other in that regard.
I guess what I mean is moving coal would be every few seconds. What is it? 12,000 videos go up on YouTube. Half of them, are old clips from Letterman, or somebody puts up their kid laughing or something, and then someone else puts up something that they worked on for a year. It's a $20,000 show, and if I'm looking for that show, if you go to just YouTube.com. There isn't going to be a page that sorts out, what's a television show, what's a clip. I have to kind of look at the thumbnails and get what you have. If you go to a Coldcast or Blip, you're probably going to see a show instead of a home video. That's all I mean by that. I think.
I've been on Blip for 3 years, since the beginning of Venus Spot. And Venus has never once was never once featured or anything. And Coldcast.
You ask?
Once told us that we weren't actually a series, but we get great views elsewhere, but we were never once put up there. So I'm wondering, I don't see why one would be considered better than the other the way they do it. I don't see that as, I honestly don't feel that just because something had more money put into it doesn't make it better.
Yeah, well, I'm on all three, and they're all different. They all have their pluses and they all have their minuses. It's, I guess, wherever your show can be successful. For instance, Vimeo. I've never been able to get any traction there. There doesn't seem to be an audience.
I'll tell you,
you want that to get the best quality upload, and then you can. Then what I used to do with Venus, at least for the first season, was upload them there and get the peak quality of all the incarnations of my final renders, and then I downloaded that. Then I put it on YouTube.
Oh, really?
It all ended up being a higher quality than just fresh off of Final Cut.
So you were using it as almost a compression method. Just they had it, and then shifting it.
Because they at the time before YouTube went HD was the highest quality.
You're right.
Inside the space.
At one point, it was, yeah.
Vimeo is still
trying to be artistic, like art pieces do very well there because again, it's the highest optical quality.
Yeah, and Tom, you're saying your experiences with Vimeo?
With Vimeo, I really find it sort of inside baseball. Whenever I want to look at a piece of equipment like the new GH2 camera, DPs tend to upload there. People's demo reels and things tend to end up on Vimeo. I think they have a sort of lock, if you will, on that market where, like Chris was saying, in the consumer electronics area, if you want to really present the best looking image, I would go with Vimeo. And one thing that they do that's clever is they tell you how much bandwidth, how much space you can have in a single output, and they'll say, well, okay, you're at 75%, you can load one more at HD, and then you're done for today. And that's their way of sort of regulating the valve. But then when you go on there, you're actually going to be able to do a study and say, that's the color matrix that this camera is doing. Like we've gotten into shooting some with the GH2 as a result of that. And when you can see the different bit rates and you can actually see the difference on Vimeo, to me, that's the value of Vimeo. It's almost the, if you will, it's the analogous to IMDb. IMDb is the place you would go to really get credits and know that there's certain credibility. For video, with Vimeo, the actual quality of the video, not necessarily the entertainment value, but the quality of the video and the interactivity on the technical end, that's their market, I think.
Yeah,
And the thing with Vimeo that I like it for what it is, because they also don't play favorites. You don't see extreme levels of this is our featured video, you have to see this, or there's nothing trending. It's really, you have to build a community. You're flying blind, but it's something that sometimes needs to be done there. But really, what you're doing is it's existing so you can send it to people with a good degree of certainty that people aren't going to just stumble on it. And if you have a video that you don't feel is ready, it's a good place to put it because only a few people will see it, and most of them are in the same boat as you. A lot of experimentation.
Now, Can you make money on Vimeo? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. And really,
but it's not really commercial.
Yeah, and it's a double-edged sword. The featuring thing, it's great when you're featured, and it's terrible when you're not. I think that's why Vimeo doesn't work in some ways, is that it doesn't have a discovery mechanism, and there's no one to talk to there. There's not a Steve Wolf where you go, hey, Steve, would you please take a look at my work, and if you think it merits it, would you consider putting it on the front page? I don't know what the interface is with Vimeo, and I don't even know where they're based, who to talk to. And I do think that's part of why they're sort of the secret that the three of us know because we're in the business, but to the general public, no one goes, I'm going to go to Vimeo and see what's on there, and they type it in and discover Spell Fury. It just isn't going to happen. I used to use Vimeo to send rough cuts of the green screens of what we did, and I knew it would never leak and no one would ever see it. So I would send work cuts and stuff, and actually the whole backlog of Invention and Safety Geeks is on Vimeo. And I actually cut some of the behind-the-scenes stuff from that footage because I would send it out to the guys with a password, and you wouldn't have to worry about anyone seeing it, really, because the traffic was so low. But the resolution on it, you could literally see, well, that's going to key, that's going to work on the cut. So I'll have, many iterations and versions that I put up through Vimeo. So they're wonderful in a sort of behind-the-scenes way for me.
Right. Yeah, now, with being featured, do you guys remember back in the day on YouTube when an actual human would feature you?
Yes, I do. Mark Day. I think that mechanism's gone away.
Oh, yeah. Long gone.
YouTube's too big for that now. It really is. You can't handpick and say that person's going to be something at this point. And it causes nothing but discontent, and B, there's just so much out there. Keeping up is almost impossible. But I like what they're doing right now with your recommendations. You like something or you watch it, and they recommend you can watch others. And Venus gets on a lot of those. We get a lot of views from that, and it helps our target audience find us when I'm not going out and finding them.
Yeah, I mean, that reminds me of Amazon now, where they look at your spending pattern. They suggested the only thing I do miss is back in the day, in the old days of the web. We got featured 6 times with Geeks, and in one night we got 400,000 views.
Yeah, the good old days.
and that's how the show found its legs, and that's how I knew what was working. You know, you get all the comments, you get all the stuff, and that was because you reach out. You know, I asked 29 times before they would feature it or take it. They ignored the first 15 times. I called, I emailed, I asked friends who knew somebody. I finally met Mark in Santa Monica, and I asked him right out. I said, would you please I know you're busy, please take a look at this and see if it has merit. And he had he had 2 people that also looked at it. And the minute it got featured and moved in the position on there, all of a sudden now it had legs. Our subscribers went up, and we had hundreds of thousands of views instead of just a few thousand. And I do miss that, because now I think it's programmed out. I think they know what they're going to feature in December. I know what, you know, they're going to be like, well, we gave $1 million to so-and-so to make some YouTube content. It's in our interest to feature it in December. So you and I loading something up and going, will you feature this in December? It's like, well, it might be great, but we've already got something scheduled for December.
I know with Spell Fury episode 1 got featured. I mean, they got up to like 250,000 views. And a lot of my earlier stuff got featured as well. If you guys remember, there was guest editors, and someone would be an editor for the day, and so it was great because it was their taste. And so I had a series called Idiot and the Scorpion. Those were getting featured. I had a series called Sex, Star Explorer Xenolith, about a drunk in space in a cow costume looking for his girlfriend. It was getting...
Imagine a show called Sex doing well on YouTube? I can't believe that. What were your meta tags? I can't believe that.
Yeah, we were getting incredible views. We actually translated it into Chinese, and it got like 1 billion views on 56.com and some of the Chinese sites. It was insane.
Wow. I love stories like that. That's what guys like us have to do. You have to translate it into Chinese.
It was tough though. Reading comments, because I like to talk to my audience, and you put it into Babelfish, and there's you know, a lollipop, my friend, and then I'd have to translate it to Chinese, then translate it back to English, and go, no, that's not what I meant, and then take out some words. It was so annoying.
You do have to wonder, like, how much of it even culturally they're gleaning. Like, on what level are they enjoying this? Mm-hmm. Because it's the same thing. If I watch Chinese content on some of the sites, I'm like, some of it's insane. You know, like some of the game shows and the things that they do. It's a glimpse at a culture where you wonder, what are they gleaning from what I'm doing? Like verbal jokes and stuff has to be going like this.
Well, the game shows you're talking about are actually mostly Japanese.
Yes, Japanese definitely.
They don't have level of violence or craziness like that in China. They're just not allowed to because of the level.
In Hong Kong, there's a couple that are bizarre. Yeah,
but in Japan, like the show MXC came direct from Japan.
Yeah, that's insane stuff.
I've seen some, but mostly that stuff. I lived in Japan for years, so there's some.
I didn't know that, Chris.
They're mostly singing variety shows, but in Japan it's in your face extreme. Everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
so it's interesting to see what they get from you know, like Travis's show. It would be wonderful to see like what they're getting contextually from the show. You know, we'd love to just interact and go, now what was this about? And like half of them say, I thought it was a drama about this. You know, and you're like, really?
Right. Well, I think we translated the sex. We tried to do a translation of sex, but I think it turned into like they were reading sexy or something. The show was called Sexy over there with the translation. So I think that was half the reason, sexy, you know, and they would click it.
In the 3D world, I'll tell you, the number one breakout 3D film was Sex and Zen in China. You know, we've been hawking a 3D version of Safety Geeks, and been following it closely. And that movie just took off because it had the naughtiness factor in a very repressed society. And then on top of that, they're technology nuts. So you had a billion first adopters all starving for sex. So Sex and Zen made a lot of sense. And they're already making Sex and Zen too. And it's interesting to me that you have so much technology and you have someone poised really as a culture to dominate, you know, as far as the marketplace goes. And then we really do not yet understand each other as far as entertainment and culture. I love Chinese films. I'm a huge fan of, you know, Jet Li and Chow Yun-fat, and I actually used to dub a lot of their movies. So I actually worked with Jackie Chan and Jet Li and all of them, and I love those films, the wushu type films and all that. But their sense of humor is odd even in those films, you know. And so it'll be interesting to see as they reach out, will their entertainment reach into the same Western myths and Eastern myths, and how will the two come together? And it'll be interesting to see what happens. You know, right now they just don't have access. You know, anytime you're in a totalitarian regime like, you know, China is now, the first thing they try and do is shut off YouTube, because access to information is dangerous. You know, it gets people thinking.
But Chinese series draw very well on YouTube. They have two locals in China.
Well, Lumina, right?
Hong Kong has become a lot of people don't realize this, but Hong Kong's version of YouTube is a major player. Not a lot of people have been following it probably because of language barriers.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
But they have there was a Hong Kong version of Prom Queen, if I'm not mistaken, which actually went over quite well, even though they don't have a prom culture in Asia.
Yeah, see, that's interesting to me. A thing based on prom that you don't even have. See, that's fascinating to me. How did Lumina do, by the way? It dropped off my radar. Yeah. Lumina, it dropped off my radar. I know it was beautifully shot, but it seemed to, I don't know if it was I lost interest or if it just sort of petered away.
Well, isn't that a lot of web series nowadays? But
it seemed to have some heavy backing. I don't know what happened to it.
My guess is it was similar to a British television show that you'll find a lot where they'll make 3 or 4 episodes and then call it a series. You know,
yeah.
Like you were saying with Red Dwarf.
Later, and do it again. You know, like, for instance, I just picked up the video of John Cleese's How to Irritate People.
Oh, yeah.
62 minutes of footage.
Mm-hmm.
That was the whole series.
Yeah, yeah. That David Frost produced that.
Yes. It had half of Python.
Yes.
So it was just Monty at that point.
Yeah, Monty. Yeah.
I
like that. I actually have
it
as well.
Yet.
Yeah, exactly. It's not even the it's yet. Exactly.
Now, okay. Now, actually, that is a great question about Lumina. Is in the web series world, this is happening a lot. It's the elephant in the room. That so you start off with a dream and some money, and you make your series, and you run out of money. And there's no money. There's no money coming in.
Sounding familiar and tragic all at once.
And I've seen with a lot of web series, they're failing. They can't do it anymore. And I've gone through it too.
I would fall into that category. I would fall into that category of failing spectacularly. I say I've learned from my mistakes and I can reproduce them exactly. That the Ask Grim we had to stop doing. We're going to do one more for Halloween. But that is so simple in that the availability and supplies for makeup, you know, because Melissa, who does all the makeup on it, she has to spend money on her kit and the stuff to put it together. And Sandra Payne, who is kind enough to open her home and let us shoot, and she sort of had the idea of, you know, Tom, come in and improv within this one confine. We don't discuss it before or after the show. I create it in the moment. With the guest, and we kind of talk in the makeup chair, and then we do it. But even that show, it became so Herculean to put it together that we went, why are we doing it? You know, we've done 7 now.
That happened though. It's a similar format to Ask a Ninja, where you could quite easily sit look like I am right now, and simply you could. It looks like something that is so simplistic that. And
yet we haven't been able to.
That you would be able to just shoot it yourself, put a camera in front of you, and do it without a whole lot of setup. Or it just seems like such a beautifully simplistic concept. That
the problem is I can't put my own makeup on, and I can't put makeup on the guests, and we literally, Melissa's been so busy doing commercials and doing other work. I have not been in the same room with them since we shot our last one in May. I haven't seen them. And so if you're looking at September, you can't sustain a series if, you know, we're looking at our calendars and we're going, are we going to have any time between now and Halloween to shoot one? And that's part of the problem.
Or would you consider retooling it to make it more simple to do, that you could make it simple? Because it seems to me like something that it would keep you active, keep you in the web space more, keep you out there, and bring more views to it, because for every new video you make, the oldies become more relevant, because people will see them on the sidebar of your new video, which breeds more views. Like I have a term, turn one view into 1,000, and it stands to reason to me that if something is really simple and is really good, why not just retool it a little bit and make it a little bit easier to do, that you don't need all this help to make it happen, when really the star of the show is Grimmy, and not the lovely singer Christina Grimmy, the other Grimmy.
We had a heart-to-heart, because we both kind of said, where is this going, and why are we doing it? We're certainly not making any money at it, and I was saying, my job is as an actor, and I need to survive as it, so every time I'm shooting this, it's taking me away from something that might pay my electric bill. So we looked at it, and Melissa is a professional, makeup artist, and Sandra wants to make features and wants to go off and do her thing, and so she wasn't able to dedicate any time to promoting it, and so I was really upset. I actually was really sad when we both kind of looked at each other and we went, so do we want to stop? Let's look at the compelling reasons to do it. We couldn't come up with 5. And so we agreed, we'll try something else. I loved doing Grimm. Once I had the voice and things would come out of my mouth, you're in a pure place where you say things that are far more clever than you. And I loved doing it.
But it was funny.
And you're right. Is there a way to strip it down and do it? Possibly if I could do my own makeup. I would still need somebody to shoot it and put it together. But then again, at the end of the day, what dividends?
That's pretty cool here. So you could if you put the Grimm outfit on with what I've got right now, you look 10 times cooler than me.
Thank you.
Chris,
it takes her about an hour to do that. The spray painting and all the stuff on it, and it's very elaborate.
But Tom, Chris really does have a point. With YouTube, you can get away with doing your own makeup and just being in a dark room like Chris, and just be just as effective as it is now. It doesn't have to be slick. It could be just you in that room, and you do your own makeup. Just put a mirror, do it, and the fans will love it just the same.
That's interesting. It comes from a different place, because I come from theater and the rest of it. I have my bar, and I feel like if I put something out there at a certain level, I won't go below it. And if I feel like I've compromised it in some way, it needs to make sense as to why I'm doing it. And if she's not going to help, and yet she's going to be part of the creation of it, and I'm splitting my profits with her, etc., because it is something that grew out of me playing Grimm in her short film and coming up with the character. Do I want to split it 50-50, but I shoulder 100% of the work? Probably not. And there's a dozen other ideas that I would love to do. So I would rather leave on a high note and having done 9 or 10 really good ones than keep cranking it out as more of a confessional one-on-one on the video. I love the dynamic of working, with some of the actors, like Paul Hungerford, one of the guys who's in the show. A little trivia on that is he was one of the first guys I ever did sketch with on stage. We've known each other for 17 years. Wow. He was on the first comedy album I ever did, and that's the first time we ever appeared together on video.
Oh, wow.
So that was a cool way to play, and he played my agent, the devil.
Right.
Kevin. And I don't know, have you seen that, Chris? The one where Kevin, the agent?
Yeah.
That's Paul. Yeah, and it was awesome. We didn't even have to talk. We knew exactly where we were going with the characters and developing it. But you raise a great point. And honestly, if I was just getting started and I created the Grimm character, I might do that. I might say I'm going to do my own makeup and stuff like that, because I used to do that backstage. I'd be back there trying to do it and do my own thing. I don't want to do that, and I have to be honest.
But even the theater thing, the show must go on.
Yes. And there's one thing I wanted to bring up. I was going to mention this a minute ago. With Ask a Ninja. Ask a Ninja is extremely simple. He answers a question and cuts maybe 100 cuts in an hour, random stuff, and makes it. But it still looks really slick and high end, and they make it work.
Yes.
Without having to do all that much. And what I'm saying
is, he's got a thing over his face,
not just on the web, but on YouTube in particular. Keeping it simple, keep your costs down, and push the hell out of it.
Now, Chris.
That's what I do, and that's what Ninja did. That's how they got where they are, and that's how I look at it.
This is a little off topic, but how is the reboot with Ask a Ninja doing? Is Brett Register involved with that or something? Or
I believe he is.
Yeah. If Brett was helming it or something, and it hasn't been very well received since coming back.
Okay.
Of its time.
Yeah, it was.
I think it was two things. One, there was two problems I think happened. Number one, they went away from YouTube for over 2 years.
Yeah.
Frankly, I think they should have stayed with what they were doing and moved to Funny or Die. As soon as names like Will Ferrell started appearing on Ninja, they should have been going to Funny or Die because that was where it belonged. Because you had some big names, tremendous talent, fun stuff. But I think what happened also was when they started talking about how they wanted it to be a web series, what they were doing, we got lucky and viral. It's like, who's putting these ideas in your ear, man? And the next thing I see on the extra Ask a Ninja stuff where they went away from the Ninja, I see Brett and Craig Frank doing sketches that didn't really have anything to do with the Ninja. And the Ninja was one of those things that was so isolated. It was all about the Ninja himself. He was that funny. And he's that good. You take him away from that, and you put the cast of the crew in his place. Ninja fans are going to look at it and like, what the? Where's the Ninja?
Well, no, I'm a fan of Craig and Brett. I think they're very talented, and I think probably
I understand that they're not. Yeah. They're not the Ninja. And
I think Kent got tired of it.
You get a little worried about it when fans will say, "What's this? This isn't our show. This ain't our guy."
And it's possible that it ran its course the first time, and Kent may have been tired of doing it. I don't know what was in his head. I think when he came back with it, it was certainly an indication that he might have had more to say, or maybe they did look at it, and as Chris said, well, wow, we left a cash cow, or we left a good idea behind, and maybe we shouldn't have. A lot of artists second-guess themselves. And I think any idea like that, it's lightning in a bottle. You guys know how that is, where sometimes you go, how is this like this took off at this one moment, and would something take off if it hit any other time? With my own shows, I often wonder, well, if I'd gotten into this space a little bit earlier with Geeks or Invention or one of the other things, would I be in a very different place than I am now? You just have to take it where the cards fall. And he chose to walk away from it and come back.
Well, they were still making videos.
But there's so many like that now. Ask a Ninja has lost its luster of uniqueness, I think. There's a lot of shows where you ask strange, silly things, myself included. With Ask Grim, you ask a strange character questions.
I don't agree with the idea that things are just simply of their time. I believe Lonely Girl 15 could still be popular today if they did it. Do
you think it would be popular if people knew that it was fake?
They know it's fake now. So
yes, but they didn't when it was popular.
It stopped in 2008. The Resistance final episode is when that ended, and I don't count the show as yours because those were fan shows.
Right.
But honestly, I think after 2008, I think they could have continued. They made a number of mistakes along the line historically. Eagle did. But I honestly believe if they'd stayed the course and did the things that were working for them, I think they would still have a tremendous fan base today. And I think it would be growing because you're continuing. You see, you stop dead. Your subscribers stop being relevant because many close their accounts or change their accounts and disappear. Nothing grows when you stop. And that's Prom Queens had that problem. They've lost well over half to 2/3 of their subscribers over the years because they haven't done anything new on the YouTube channel in years. And
I think it run its course. Yeah,
I don't think it ran its course. I think the minute you stop it dead in its tracks, it's dead. Once you stop,
that's momentum, right? If you lose that momentum, you
gotta keep rolling. And if you stop rolling, all bets are off. You're almost starting over.
Go on, Tom.
And I do have to disagree. I do think some things are of their time. I think Blair Witch worked at the moment that the internet, this is it real kind of footage campaign. I think if you did that campaign now, people are quite savvy to it. You can see by Apollo 18 how the response has been different to Apollo 18 than it was to something like Blair Witch, where it was something new and sexy that you could do a social media
activity at the type of campaign.
Exactly. I don't think you'll see anything like the Paranormal Activity. I don't see that lightning striking again anytime soon, even if it's the same.
To be honest with you.
I'm sorry?
It happens every generation.
Yes, but a generation must go by. Yeah. And for me, I think you're right. Some things are timeless, and hopefully when I do comedy, I try and make it evergreen. I don't try and tell Gerald Ford jokes because that's going to date me if I'm in the 70s, you know. But I do think some things are lightning in a bottle. For example, Blair Witch. For example, Lonely Girl. Because back then, half of the appeal was, is it real or is it not? It was technology running up against a new social network where people were going, wow, I can convey this information really fast to each other, and I can Twitter, is that real? Did you just watch that? And it spread virally in a way that sitting in Lawrence of Arabia, I couldn't tweet and go, this is awesome, you guys need to see Lawrence of Arabia.
There's so much sand.
It's so much sand, dude. And so that movie is timeless, but I don't think that movie is going to be any less of its time. I think that film needed to be made when it was made, and people's attention spans have changed. If you watch it with a younger person, they'll get bored.
Okay, hey guys, can we just have it? We'll take a quick break here.
Yes, of course.
Okay, we have a sponsor for this episode, and it is spidvid.com, and I love Spidvid.
Me too.
It is a
solid resource.
Yeah. It's great for if you have an idea, but you don't have maybe a cameraman or an editor or someone to compose, and so you go to spidvid.com and you start an account and you pitch a project. And then what happens is people are going to start joining onto the project if they like it. So you put a paragraph about what your show or web series is going to be, and people start to pile on. And then you look through all the bids, and you do your research, and you start putting your team together to make the project. And it's free. This is a free service. And there's some tremendous. So Tom, you've heard of SpidVid before?
I have. I've actually gotten some projects emailed to me as a proposal, and they tell you who's doing it, and they give you some background, and they allow you to throw in, as you said, you can throw in on the project. And what I like about them is, I understand they're aware of me as well, is that if you have a project out there, this is an electronic bulletin board that you can put it up and you say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Do you know somebody that really knows After Effects? Or do you know somebody that? And you could target that person. So it's a great service. And I encourage people to investigate it and post projects and network through this SpidVid. It's wonderful.
And Chris, do you know of SpidVid?
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
When we did the Women in Web series,
that's right.
If I'm not mistaken, a good chunk of that thing got made because of people on SpidVid getting involved. Yeah. I came up with an idea for big whole cluster of people all over the place.
Yeah, I came up with an idea for Women in Web series where we would get we would interview actresses from web series, and I used my sort of puppet Mumsy, who got more and more perverted as the interview went on.
Of course, that's puppets do.
Venus was like a little too much, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, Chris had some of his ladies on there, and we had Julie O'Halloran from Spell Fury, and we also had.
You gotta have my Brittany on there. You gotta get her on there.
Yes. If we do another episode, let's make that happen. Okay.
He would be into it.
Okay.
He would be into it.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We also had Miranda Stewart from Vexica, and usually Mumsy heavily hits on the girls, and they all storm off. Except for Chris's ladies, who actually were into the puppet. But
all that it fails.
Exactly, furry.
Well, now let's face it, Chris. Your web series is designed to meet hot chicks. Let's face it, right there. You got hot chicks.
Well,
that's part of the.
Well, the beauty of Chris's thing is when he walks around with his actresses, he looks like he's Hugh Hefner.
That's right.
He's got 3 ladies on his arm.
Everybody wants to cast a show like that.
But
cast a show like that.
But with SpidVid, that whole project was done on SpidVid. So I actually met a composer. I went through a few composers, found a guy. I think it's Darren Warnicourt, and he did the opening music, the intro. Had a guy do the intro as well. And yeah, it's such a great site if you need help on your project. They'll work for free. They're just trying to get their name out. So go to spidvid.com, sign up for an account. You'd be foolish not to. Just like Tom said, they'll send you emails. So Tom wants to act. He says, I'm an actor. You'll get emails saying, hey, this project needs an actor. That's the beauty of it.
Right. No, it's fantastic that way. Spidvid, you should definitely check it out, and thank you for sponsoring Travis's show.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so
Spidvid for helping us.
We love Spidvid.
Yes. You know what? As indie guys like us, and ultimately that's what we are, we don't have the helping hands of other people. When someone reaches out like that, I am always grateful, and you try and make them feel valued and special when they take an interest in what you're trying to do.
Yeah,
you know, so that's how I feel about it. And anybody that was willing to help me, totally grateful.
Yeah, it's a great company, great bunch of guys, and yeah, if you're into web series and you need some help, that's where you go. But anyways, we're back here with Tom Konkle of Safety Geeks, Ask Grim, Invention with Brian Forbes. We have Chris Greenaway from Watch Venus Spa on YouTube. Now let's get to
evil floating head of Chris.
He's
Put some echo on that in post.
Yeah.
Echo and some flames going on.
Let's do that. Let's do that. But let's get into some I want to talk about Safety Geeks, but first let's talk about a hot topic. People want us to talk about a hot topic. So, Tom, how do you feel about the IAWTV Awards being in Las Vegas?
Oh my goodness, how do I feel about it? Well, it's been a mystery until now how I felt about it. It's interesting. Again, one thing that I was telling you earlier is tone doesn't come across when you're writing. I posted something on the IAWTV that, for me, was essentially kind of a soul search. I was trying to figure out, if I'm not nominated, and if I don't have a company, say a vested interest in one of my clients is nominated and would be going to Vegas, or if I'm affiliated with a show, or say my net's covered. You know, someone says, I want you out there. I'm, with Digitas, and I need you to go out there. I ask the question, who's going to go to this thing? Who's going to, who wants to go to it? Basically was my question. Why would you go? And initially, a lot of people were kind of up at arms, saying, "Well, what do you mean? We're perfectly entitled to go. And how dare you say this? You can't say, it's because it's not in L.A. that you're upset." And at its essence, what I'm really asking is, why would I go if I'm not in the ceremony? Why would I go to Vegas? Why would I spend, even at minimum, let's say I drove and just stay, it's $200, gas and whatever, to drive out. So for me, it's another award show. Now it's in Vegas, great. Everyone goes there, so I leave everyone here in LA that I know, and I meet them 2 hours later in Vegas. And I'm not nominated, and I'm now down $200, which is an Ask Grim episode. Let's face it. And it was interesting to see a dialogue, because I think the thread, by the time Chris and I started going at it and you started jumping in, that was the longest conversation anybody in the IAWTV has ever had.
Right.
I think the three of us can proudly say we finally took the gloves off and actually had an honest discussion. We don't have to agree, we just have to listen to each other's side. I would rather have clarity than agreement. And it's good that you guys got up in arms and said, wait a minute, I'm in Canada. I can't help that. I'm in Canada and I want to do it. And I get it. And I apologize if I made you feel like that meant an elitist attitude, because certainly myself and Dave and my business partner Mike Smith, we all moved to LA to try and get into this business. And I moved 3,000 miles to move here. Dave moved from essentially a farm town in Texas, and Mike came from Seattle. So none of us are even from LA. We moved here to do that. And so if I had stayed in Virginia, I would still want to be doing videos and do things. When I moved out here, and this will date me, there was no internet. There was no other way for me to do it. And when I went and saw Star Wars, in the car driving home, I told my parents I was leaving and putting them in the home because I was leaving to go to LA. I knew that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get into the business. And the day after I graduated, I packed my car and I drove across.
Here's a question.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Chris.
The bottom line is, for the web space. We're all over the world. We're all literally everywhere. I'm in Winnipeg. Travis just outside of Ottawa.
Yeah.
Jason Leaves in Toronto. The guys from those video guys are in England. I mean, we're all over the world here. This ain't, you don't have to drop everything to go to LA to do what you want to do. Fred made his name in Nebraska. No, I think Lincoln or something like that. I don't know where in Nebraska he was, but he's deep in Husker territory. Yeah. And the thing is, you see, what if Venus Spa has not been nominated for an award show that was in LA in the last 2 years? Why would me or the girls want to go down to LA for that show? So, but for Vegas, there's a big networking electronics convention where the web space is very welcome, and I would definitely want to go there and hook up with people from the industry, not just here, but I'm talking about potential sponsors, whatever you want, whatever you need, or whatever you want to talk to in terms of the online world. They're all going to be there, and so for me, that's the cheapest flight in America at any given time, and especially during down season, which is January, February, where they're just trying to fill the hotels. Hotels are $24 a night, circus. I don't care if it's a dive at this point. I'm just there to sleep. So for me, if I'm not nominated, I just might go, just based on that. Because it's cheap. I'm not going to pay an arm and leg to go out to LA just because everything else has to be there. I really, honestly, at this point in my career, I really don't care what's there. There's nothing there for me. And, Travis and I have done just fine without it. So that's my feeling on it, is if they move it to Vegas where there's a major industry event going on with it, it doesn't matter if I'm nominated or not. I might go anyway. I may not take in the show, but I'll definitely be at CES. And I'll definitely want to hook up with people and talk to them about everything possible and maybe collab with somebody or something.
So, Tom, jump in there.
Have you been to CES before?
First time I went was about 1999, 2000. I haven't been since. Okay. But I might go this time around, but I have done it.
I went the last 2 years, and it did pay some dividends. Frankly, the agenda of the people on the floor there, being consumer electronics, they're very narrowly focused on selling their own product. The reason I went 2 years ago was IAWTV, the company that does our 3D, was showing their 3D TVs, and I wanted to have lunch with the guy because I hadn't had a chance to meet with him and talk to him. They're based out of Perth in Australia, and I hadn't had a chance to meet with the rest of their team who happened to be there, and I went there. Well, here's the thing. Let's springboard off that idea. If it's international, then technically it doesn't need to be anywhere for an award show. It only needs to be somewhere for the actual nominees and the people that need to physically be handed an award, or if people want to network. I think that's great, and I think you should go if you're wanting to network. I have never been able to network at an award show. And all the ones I have, everyone's in their own little world, and they're trying to get on the carpet, and they're talking about celebrating their own show. For me, I would much rather see an awards show that was existent virtually on the web, where all of us are in attendance and seeing it, but there isn't any place that you have to go to be in it if you're not nominated.
That would be, but at the same time, I think in terms of where everyone was going, in terms of what they wanted to do with these shows, I don't want something that apes the Oscars, but I consider this more a better compromise than where they were going with this before. So I'm okay with it as is right now.
My opinion is I like the move to Vegas for the very reasons Chris brought up. It's cheaper to go there than LA. It's cheaper to stay there. So for the international part of IAWTV, from my viewpoint, it's easier. I'd actually like it somewhere like right in the middle of the States, so that everyone can just come in and it's, if you're in Vancouver, you're from Nova Scotia, it's somewhere right in the middle. I think that's where it has to be. I don't know.
That would be sort of revolving. Like have it in London one year, have it in Tokyo another, or even if there's not much going on there. I'm talking about home bases here.
So you think moving around every year?
Pretty much.
But would you go if it was in Tokyo or London? Would you really go? Would you spend the
second home?
But it's like $3,000 to go.
Yeah.
It's my second home. I know.
I don't think I would, Chris. That'd be too.
Tokyo, I would be there. London, maybe not, but Tokyo, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, see, London's a second home for me. I spent a lot of time there. I was married there. I grew a lot of time in London and England.
I wouldn't begrudge that of it. I would have no problem at all. Even if I couldn't, I'd be cool with it as long as I could see it.
I wouldn't go though if I wasn't nominated. I wouldn't go anywhere without being nominated. That's just me. And I happened to go because it was in L.A. But I've never gone to the Oscars, and it's in LA. And when I was growing up as a kid, that was the one thing I dreamed of getting, was an Oscar. And I finally swore off award shows completely, because if you're not nominated, the award show is for the person nominated. And for me, after my Streamies experience, I was at both Streamies. I had a great time at the first one, where I had no reason to be there, and I didn't have a great time at the second one when I was nominated. And I probably will never be involved in it again. I doubt I'll be nominated for any of the acting or production I've done, and I certainly won't just show up to think I'm going to have a good time.
I'm not even going to submit my stuff for a nomination for the Streamies. 2010 was a middle finger to my face, and I'm not going to.
That's sort of where I'm coming.
But with me, I guess this is the first awards for the IAWTV, right? We have to support them. I'm thinking of, if I can pull it off financially, I might go. Just to support it. I will
ask you this: what do you hope to gain by supporting it?
By supporting the IAWTV?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a loaded question, too. I'm actually asking an honest question.
No, fair enough. Yeah. No, well, we all paid $90 to be in the Academy. I think it gives us a good sense. It's a community of people who are doing web series. Like right now, this is happening because of IAWTV. It was a discussion that happened on the IAWTV Facebook page, where we all most of you guys battled opinions, and I love that. We're getting different viewpoints. We have to do that. We have to talk honestly and stop saying, I love your web series, I love your web series. And
far too easy on each other, yes.
Way too easy. I think we have to bring in constructive criticism. I know it hurts, but there's some creators I'd like just to say, hey, your editing has to get better. If it does, your show's going to be successful. But I don't feel we're not being honest.
Well, and it's tough, too, because
another to be mentioned. And that is the one thing I've learned when I was out in LA compared to how I am when dealing with people in the international community. And that is the web series community. Now, I've seen many a show out that was made out in LA that didn't do well because everyone's out there. I've heard this said a few times. Brady DeForest once said to me that we're a family out here. But no one supports each other. And what I mean by support isn't just great job and a pat on the back at a mixer. I'm talking about helping each other, tweeting, Facebooking, send it to your fans on YouTube, whatever it takes. But people aren't supporting each other's work in a meaningful way. And if they did, they'd be far more successful. And that's why Travis and I have done so well.
Yeah,
that's why Jason and Lever does so well. That's why the YouTubers are king, is because they've figured out how to do that. And if we as a community, I believe in everyone on YouTube is part of the community with YouTube, because that's where my primary home is when it comes to Webseries. But the bottom line is, if you're not helping each other, you're not going to get anywhere either. You gotta be doing it for yourself, but you've also got to be a team player. And I believe in this space, Felicia Day being Queen of the Mountain it doesn't mean a damn thing if there's no one else up there with her in the scripted world. Now, whereas with the YouTubers, there's 100 of them all around the same level, all making tremendous money and all helping each other and very free with their advice for new YouTubers. And that's the biggest problem I've learned out in LA, is that part of the community building does not exist, and that's something that needs to change. And that's something that I think supporting an event like this, I have my reasons for not being a big fan of how it was done, but I do believe that we need to support each other and make things like this work, because if we don't, who will?
I agree. I agree. And really the short answer to that is the Hollywood culture. You know, I've practically gone native. I've lived here now 20 years. I'm about to live here longer than I've lived anywhere else. And it is not a culture of team building. It is a culture of tightly knit, I call it high school with money. It's tightly knit cliques that Felicia is a team builder around her, but she has her very tight clique, and if you're welcomed into it, as I was briefly, with helping them and working on the guild, you feel very honored. But her clique, they're in rare air. It's people like Josh Whedon and Nathan Fillion, and big money is involved. And it doesn't... Let me just finish my point. It doesn't have to be that way, but the architecture of that culture has been that way since 1919, when Hollywood really started, and you started getting various studios rising to power, and you had your Warner's people, and you had your MGM people. It is a place where you read box office scores like sports scores, and there is a celebration when someone fails, and an adulation when your film kicks everybody else's butt. And everyone has their own fiefdom. And I've had to build a team of...
are kicking their ass.
What's that?
That may well be true, but there are still films that are making $500 million, and those people are going to hang on to their part of that pie and what they're doing.
We're in the web space. We're not we're not making movies. We're not making TV shows. We're doing a completely different form of expression, a completely different art form. And it's a completely different space.
That goes straight to my point, though. My next point was for people in LA, web is one of a buffet of places that people want to end up. And you'll notice that people have transitioned into television. You'll see them on the Sci-Fi Network, or you'll see them getting a TV deal, and that's their end game. Your end game is to do the very best that you can in the pool that you have. You could play and splash around in the world in Canada there and do the very best web series in the world. But here, the idea, many of the people that you encounter just have a different set of goals, and it looks like they're not helping you and not working with you because they're trying to hang on to their little piece of gold, and they're trying to be a star, or they want a television series, they want to be in movies. I moved out here to get into movies and TV. There wasn't any such thing as the web. The reason I went to the web was a backwards way. I didn't see it as a way of, oh, here's this thing, and I'm just developing as an artist to go to web. I saw the web as a way of, wow, unfiltered. In one day, more people saw me in this one video I just put up than saw me perform live in my 10-year tour of my live show, or saw me on television in a commercial. You know, I'll do a commercial, I still get more recognized for my commercials than I do for my theatrical work on a television show. I didn't move here to be in commercials. I do commercials to pay my bills and to feed my family. And a professional does it when they don't feel like it. And a lot of times you don't feel like it. And I still get up in the morning and I do my thing. That's our culture. You guys have you have a life. You have other things that you do. It doesn't hang on climbing that. You know, if you watch a movie, A Star is Born, I don't know if have either of you seen that movie, A Star is Born?
Seen both the versions that matter.
It really is that way out here. I fought that fight.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, exactly. Well, the earlier ones, it really is like that. You know, the myth is the overnight success, and the thing is, but it requires tremendous talent, tenacity, luck, and clinging on to your dream and what you need. And there are a lot of people in the culture that will move out the way.
At the end of the day is, when you step into this space, this is a completely different culture and a completely different, really a different business. But it's a developing business, I know. But having said that, once you go there, you have to play. You're playing by it's a whole new game. And a different
Hollywood has a hard time hearing that, I think, because they have big money behind them. They have big money. Yeah, you know, if you have a radio network and then all of a sudden someone comes in and they have $500 million to do a radio show, they're going to demand that you do it their way and pay attention. And unfortunately, I don't think that's the right way to do it. I'm just being real about how to do it. And I think a crushing, overwhelming force can come in, like Hollywood, and say, no, YouTube, we're going to give you $7 million and I want you to promote this. A smart businessman will say, I'll take your $7 million.
Yeah, but they're keeping creative control, though. The YouTubers are keeping total creative control.
Make millions.
Absolutely.
Millions. Lisa Nova's making six figures. These people, it doesn't matter. They don't need Hollywood. Hollywood is something that they're not even thinking about. They've gone beyond that. And
I'll bet
that
if you
exists.
up Lisa sitcom, she'd take it. I bet Lisa Nova would take a sitcom.
Okay, guys, so that's the end of This Week in Web Series with Tom Konkle. I want to thank Tom for coming on the show. He was our first guest, and we're still playing around with the format, so thank you very much, Tom. I've told you personally, but I'll say it here publicly, that I'm a huge fan of Safety Geeks. It looks great, it's hilarious. Also loved Ask Grim. But Tom still has one more show going, Invention with Brian Forbes, and he is amazing in it. Tom is an extremely talented actor, and him and Dave, the comic timing in the show is incredible. So if you guys haven't seen that yet, check out Invention with Brian Forbes. You can find that on Dave and Tom on YouTube. That's his YouTube channel. Check him out. I also want to thank Chris Greenaway from Venus Spa. You can find him on youtube.com/watchvenusspa. And myself, you can find my show at youtube.com/T-Bone Pearson. You can find it on Colecast as well. Just type in Spell Fury or type Spell Fury in YouTube. You'll find it. One word, Spell Fury. Thanks again, Tom. I also want to thank our sponsor, spidvid.com. A free tool for web series creators like myself, Chris, and Tom, and it just brings people together. If you need a composer, if you need an editor, or whatever you need, they're there. They're waiting for you. They'll work for free most times, and they're just looking for a chance to break in. So give them a chance. It's great for everyone. And that is This Week in Web Series this week. Bye.